Everybody, Dan Hominem here. Today we're doing some transit crayoning. So this is the city I live in. This is Washington, D.C. Recently there was a big extension done from D.C. out to Dulles Airport. I don't have it mapped on here, but the Silver Line extension. And we already have National Airport hooked up to Metro on the yellow and blue lines. But DC's third airport, which is more so Baltimore's airport, but it also serves DC, is hooked up to the MARC commuter rail service, which follows the Northeast Corridor, but even then it's like indirect, because you still have to take a bus for the last little bit from here to the airport. Not only that, but Baltimore is right here. Baltimore and Washington are closer to each other than San Jose and San Francisco. So what if we just got them both connected by Metro service? After all, DC's Metro service already is pretty good at acting like an S-Bahn, with the red line and aforementioned Silver Line going out as far as Dulles Airport, red line going as far as Gaithersburg, but we have the green line, just stops right here. If this ran as long as the red line, it would reach to just shy of BWI Airport. If it went as far as the Silver Line, it would go pretty much all the way to Baltimore. Let's work on a green line extension. What I've mapped out here are the yellow and the green lines. The green line right now runs from Branch Avenue, which, by the way, I just did a station review on, hint, hint, click, click. Runs through suburban Maryland, through southeastern DC, downtown DC, through northeast, up through the, Hyattsville, College Park, Greenbelt area up to here. Now, I know I say it's a green line extension, but I also have the yellow line mapped out because they run concurrent for a good portion of their route. I have that starts in Huntington, runs through Alexandria, stops through National Airport in Arlington, through downtown DC. Right now, it stops at Mount Vernon Square. Historically, and most likely, once we get the new trains rolling, it runs all the way up to Greenbelt as well and shares the alignment from LaFont Plaza, which is right here where they meet, up to Greenbelt. They usually share that right of way. We're just short on trains right now, so they terminated at Mount Vernon Square. But I think it would be a really cool idea and a very practical idea to extend the Green Line up through Beltsville, Laurel, Jessup, Dorchester, up to BWI, and /or through Halethorpe up to Baltimore. Now, there is already a MARC commuter line service that runs from Union Station through Northeast and Hyattsville, runs along the green and yellow lines here. Doesn't have a stop in Beltsville, but does go through Conterra, Laurel, Jessup, Savage, Elkridge, Halethorpe, and then comes up here. Issue with that is that's on CSX-owned rail. It only runs during peak hours, and it doesn't stop at BWI. There's another commuter rail line that does, but it's on the Northeast Corridor, goes through Odenton and New Carrollton. It's kind of out of the way and isn't on the most useful alignment. Because if you look and see the Northeast Corridor alignment right here, there's a lot of space where there is really like no development. Whereas if you go along that CSX corridor, there's solid development from DC to Baltimore. Like, you wouldn't even see countryside this whole way. So because of that, I think that's actually going to be a more useful corridor, not to mention Laurel is way bigger than like Odenton or Bowie or Crofton or Fort Meade or anything through here. But I've already mapped a pretty good proposal for a lot of this, but before we start on the northern part, which I think is going to be the more exciting portion, I also do have an area down south to extend Green Line to Clinton. So from the Branch Avenue station, I have these highlighted in white here just to kind of show the footprint of the station. I have this done with all of the relevant stations at least. We would have it turn through Oth Village here. There's some houses are going to have to get torn down for that. Like, it's just, literally, you can't make it work underground. I think it would be too steep. You might be able to make it work elevated. I don't think so, because I think the Branch Avenue station is partially underground. You might be able to do a tunnel. I don't think it's very likely. I think you'd have to keep it partially underground but still like open to the surface. Have it run under, what's this? Is this Branch Avenue or is this Suitland Parkway? I think that's Suitland Parkway. Or, no, that's just the Beltway. Yeah, that's just the Beltway, never mind. Have it duck under the Beltway and have a stop here at Camp Springs, which is under what appears to be right now a nothing. We would have it continue under, I'm not sure what road this is off the top of my head. Have it come down here, follow alongside this creek, which hopefully wouldn't make development too terribly difficult, but it's kind of the only thing resembling a right-of-way through here. Have it come down here next to, I think that one is Suitland Parkway. And then end down here to station in Clinton, which is a baseball field, it looks like. I don't think it's necessary to bring it down any further south. Clinton's not very dense, and Waldorf, there's not enough development here to justify further development. I think it'd be worth preserving a right-of-way, probably go up by this golf course and around this back way. I think it would be worth preserving a right-of-way, just in case there is a bunch of future development, but for now, I don't think it's worth the construction. Okay, now we go up north. And whenever we're looking at ways to BWI, there are a few options. The first one is following the CSX corridor up that Mark already runs on. Mark, you come up here, they don't have a stop in Beltsville, but they do have a stop up in, where is it here? Up in Conterra. The Muirkirk station's right here. Yeah, that's where it is. Keeps going further north with a stop in Laurel right here. There's a temporary, seasonal, I don't know what you want to call it. There's like a half station at the Laurel racetrack. Keeps going up. I'm not sure off the top of my head where the Jessup station is, but there's one up here in Jessup. There's one in Savage. Once again, I don't remember exactly where. There's one in Dorsey. There's one in Elk Ridge. I think it's a St. Denis stop. Yeah, it's up over here. And the rail right-of-way gets real wacky and curvy up through here. There's the Healthorpe station here, but that's on the Penn line. That's not on the Camden line, which is the one that we've been following. And then I don't think there's any stops from there up until you get to Camden Yard, which is right here outside of the Orioles Stadium, like on the south end of downtown Baltimore. So that's kind of option number one, is just following that CSX corridor. Option number two would be either running next to or in the median of I-95. The first thing I want to point out is literally the only option to start is going up the CSX corridor. There's literally no other option. But from here, you'd probably have to stop through Beltsville, swing up over to the west, and then meet up here. I don't like this idea because you would straight up just skip Laurel. And Laurel is a fairly large community. I think any plan up here, you have to run through Laurel. But this runs in a way where you would miss most major development that you would want to hit along a route like this. It's not very close to BWI. You'd have to branch it really far out this way, right? So I-95, I don't think is a good idea. Option number three would be running either through the BW Parkway or some park area next to it. Now, you could do this without going through Beltsville, I suppose, but you'd have to go through Goddard, and something tells me NASA would veto that. But let's just say you could run it through NASA. You head up over this way, either run next to or down the median of the BW Parkway. Well, your Laurel station would be way out here in the middle of nowhere. It would be over Montpelier, Snowden Pond, this sort of area. Once again, you'd totally miss Laurel. You could bring it back in and then go back out, but I think that would be not a great idea. You would hit up Maryland City, you would have Annapolis Junction. You go further up, you get Dorchester, and you would get a stop at, or near at least, the Arundel Mills Mall, which would be a very major destination. You go up further north, and you're going to have an easy connection to BWI. You just swing over this way and you're there. From there, you can median run into downtown Baltimore with seemingly minimal issue. So let me show you the path I chose. The path I chose splits the difference between the CSX Camden right-of-way and the BW Parkway. This is what I went over. So this main thick green line, that is what I think is a more practical right-of-way that you would see get passed. While these more yellow ones here, I think are some alternatives that I think would be better, but less likely to actually happen. Starting from College Park, I would like to see the reintroduction of a station at Berwyn for a few reasons. A, there actually used to be a MARC stop here, which is why I say reintroduction. It was never a Metro stop, but there used to be a MARC stop here. A few reasons. First, the Greenbelt station is really far out of the way. It's fine off the Beltway, but if you're trying to get there from City of Greenbelt itself, which is all the way over here, or Franklin Park, or Berwyn Heights, or Hollywood, or anything like that, this is going to be an easier spot to get to. I think there's enough of a ridership argument. You're also going to have a lot of commercial potential because you are really close to the Beltway Plaza Mall. You have the Greenbelt station, mostly unaffected, except, by this time you'd have a big old FBI building over here. Train yard would stay where it is. As we head north, we would have a Beltsville station right here, which is currently mostly a nothing. Through here, you're going to get really tight. You would probably have to tear down a few buildings here and there, but I think you could squeeze Metro through this area here. It would require some redevelopment. Now, I know the Camden line right-of-way through here is all sorts of funky, and the elevation and getting through this part of Beltsville is always a massive pain, because there's a pretty steep elevation difference. I don't know if I'm going to be able to see it super well here on Street View, but this railway through Beltsville is already super disruptive as it is. But I really don't see an alternate way around, especially if you want to keep Beltsville on Metro, which I think you should. We would keep pushing north from here through mostly warehouse and industrial area, keeping parallel to Baltimore Avenue and the Camden line until you get to Muirkirk. Muirkirk's weird. It's long enough for MARC, but it's not long enough for a Metro platform, so I think it's going to be less of a problem to politely ask whatever business is here to very nicely give up a couple of the buildings for a platform long enough to hold 8 trains than it is to knock down these brand new apartments for it. You could be able to also move Baltimore Avenue over, move the CSX right-of-way over, and then do it that way. Issue with that is it looks like there's a lot of retention ponds over here that could take a lot of hydrology, relocation, redoing, whatever. It wouldn't be the easiest job ever. Probably it'd be easier just to be like, yoink. But there all are alternative solutions. And I think through here, putting this underground would not be practical. I don't think it's dense enough for that to make sense. Keep going north here through really low density areas. I think there'd be enough room to put Metro tracks with little issue. We would get to a South Laurel station where we would just yoink the storage facility here. Laurel is big enough. I do think multiple stations would make sense. I think a redevelopment of this whole area would make sense. There's plenty of areas to expand and build other industrial. I think this area would be more valuable with the Metro line being redeveloped into something different, but even if it isn't, even if it's a park and ride, having access to a station here in South Laurel, I think, would be very much worth it. It's even then not that much of a walk or bike ride or anything like that to get up to these two shopping complexes up here and down here. There's also a lot of houses around there that really benefit from it as well. Keep going up into downtown Laurel. This area up here would be pretty tight. This might be justified going underground. But the downtown Laurel station would be basically where the MARC station is, shy of a few little developments here next to it. From downtown Laurel, we keep going north. I would say just not do a station at Laurel Racetrack. I think the traffic there is going to be too irregular with it being too close to the downtown Laurel station as it is. I think you just have a decent pedestrian connection there, you'll be fine. From here, I think the more practical right-of-way you'd be able to get away with is staying alongside that track, but this does swing out far enough. I think there's a case to be made to go along this line here and deviate a little bit. But I don't think that one's really that big of a deal. It wouldn't add any new stations. It's pretty low density and industrial through here. Cross over, what is that? Is that? I don't recall what interstate that is, but that's in interstate. Come up to an Annapolis Junction station, which there's like this big office complex over here. Be useful for commuting. There's been a lot of development in this area in general. But this one would most likely just be a massive concrete pad with cars on it. I don't think it's dense enough to see any other station than that. It would be nice if this would spur better land development, but I doubt it. Then from here we have two options. We have the more practical option, which would involve from here running into the median of the BW Parkway with a station here at Dorchester. I, from looking at this, don't think there's been any apartment buildings built here, so you could just have a road going here. Hopefully that wouldn't cause any problems, because I don't know what development plans are. But throw a walkway and bike path through here, and you have a pedestrian connection to the Arundel Mills Mall. Have this run back up here, just through the right-of-way, and that's going to go towards Baltimore. However, if you could get away with it, bring that right-of-way a little bit east, and down here, I wouldn't even worry about disrupting these homes because you would kind of have to run this underground for this to work. But run it underground underneath these big box stores. It's like a Walmart and a Costco, something like that, and have a station directly under or adjacent to the Arundel Mills Mall. So that way there is no long pedestrian connection. It'll be like walking out into the Pentagon City Mall, right? You're just there. Pop back above ground over here. Meet back up with the more likely right-of-way, I suppose. Then from here, you might be wondering, well, how do you head up BWI and then go to Baltimore? The answer is you don't. The answer is you do a branch. So half the trains would run through over here. I don't think there's much of a point in putting a station here just for Amtrak, because I think that this line would kind of defeat the purpose of that. But if you wanted to put a station here, there's enough room you could, because this is the BWI Airport Amtrak station. You have Northeast Regional and Acela service here. But it would keep going up to BWI Airport. This would require a whole redevelopment, because you also have Baltimore's light rail stopping here. If we go on track towards Baltimore here, it would go across whatever highway this is and run alongside BW Parkway. It would be tight, and it might be worth running through here either underground or as an L, but it would be possible to do it, but tight, I'm not sure. But I think there'd be a way to do it. To have Metro stop up here at the Hillthorpe station. Now, one thing I do want to point out is there are already plans for doing a junction here between these rails. So the MARC path through here could end up looking totally different over the next decade. So this could end up being different. This station could be moved down over here. There's several things that can happen, but for now, I would say station here to meet up with Mark Penn Line, continue towards Baltimore. I don't have a station footprint mapped out here because this would also require a pretty substantial redevelopment. Plus, we already have enough space here to fit a metro train, so I didn't feel like I needed to highlight that. But you would have to go underground or an L through this area most likely. But if you did squeeze it through, you might be able to avoid most disruption in this neighborhood. From here, we would either median run or run next to this highway. I think it would most have to be next to it because there's not really room, there's not really a median. Have a stop here at Morrill Park, bridge over to this other side here, keep going down this route through this industrial area, which I don't think there's much of a point putting a stop through here, with it finally terminating in Camden Yard, which would also require redevelopment. Though one thing I do want to point out is this Green Line extension would almost certainly make the Mark Camden line utterly pointless, and would almost certainly just replace it entirely. I think it would make sense to have that right-of-way still going, more or less as a skip-stop service. So you would still have out from Union Station with a stop in Riverdale. I think that might be a good opportunity to also add a station to downtown Hyattsville, but as it stands right now, stop in Riverdale Park, College Park, Greenbelt. I would say skip through to Laurel, keep your stop at Laurel. And then from there, have one at the BWI Amtrak station, and then just go to Camden Yard, right? Actually, probably not even go to Camden Yard. Probably turn at the Healthwark Junction and go to Baltimore Penn, because that would be an option at that point. Whether you want to do that mark or whether you want to do that as an Amtrak route, I think both are viable. Mark this out on a map and do the services. I think anything past Greenbelt, you really don't need to keep that 8-minute frequency up. I think it would be acceptable to drop that to like a 15-minute frequency, honestly. But as development up here continues, you would want to keep that going, especially past the Laurel. I really don't think there's any reason to keep it high frequency. If you ever looked at the DC Metro map, you might notice that the silver and orange should really just be branches of the same line, but they're marked as different lines. Metro's just kind of allergic to marking branch services. If they want to continue to be allergic to marking branch services, they could code one of the routes as yellow line and the other is green. I would say probably mark yellow line to BWI, so that way people in Virginia would have direct access to BWI Airport. And so that way, if someone wanted to do a really stupid, long, grueling flight connection between National and BWI, they could. But I think it would actually make more sense to probably just terminate Green Line service at Greenbelt, call it Green up to Baltimore, and just do a branch line. But yeah, that's my proposal for a Green Line extension. I know this isn't like super fantasy land, but it is still relatively fantasy land. It's called crayoning for a reason. A lot of these I did go through, make kind of compromise what I think would happen versus what I would want to happen, like these two little differences in right-of-way here. If you like the video, like, subscribe. I intend on doing more of these ideas for other lines, other cities, things like that. It's just this is the corridor and city I'm most familiar with. And have a great day.